Welcome. I'm Jason Moore, Senior Loan Officer with Cross Country Mortgage. I've been in the lending space for the last 15 years, and today we're going to have an important, impactful, empowering conversation about divorce. Please like, subscribe, follow, and share, and check out the links in the bio. I have a great esteemed panel of professionals to help me navigate this journey, and they're going to introduce themselves. Let's start off with Mary.
Hey, I'm Mary Gurganus, and I'm the CEO and Senior Attorney at Triangle Divorce Lawyers, a North Carolina law firm. And we handle family law from A to Z, adoptions, custody, divorce, separation, to wills and estates. So give us a call if you need somebody.
Hi, I'm Kristen Lampuri. I'm with Compass. I'm a real estate broker. I got my license back in 2003, and I help people all over the Triangle buy and sell. And I put a lot of emphasis on relationship building, both with co-broking side and making deals happen, but also with supporting my clients. And I'm also a personal divorcee. I got divorced when my kids were 1, 3, 5, and 7. So I know what it's like to be in the throes of things. So, Jason, thank you so much for having us.
My name is Hennessy Stewart. Jason, again, thank you for having us. I'm really looking forward to this discussion. I'm a vice president, financial advisor with CapTrust, headquartered here in Raleigh, but we're the #1 independent firm in the country. So we've got locations all across multiple states, multiple metros, helping people navigate decisions just like this. And so it's very important. It can be messy, can be scary, but I'm excited to have this conversation with everyone to kind of just dive right in and discuss all these topics with you.
Well, thank everyone for being here, first and foremost. I really appreciate you taking the time to help us navigate this difficult but also empowering situation. So let's kind of get into it. Let's have some fun.
Let's do it.
Let's get some questions answered. Let's get you informed and get information to our people, our viewers. Mm-hmm. All right. Let's start with Mary. What is the #1 misconception about divorce, and why does it matter?
I think the most confusing part of it is that it takes so much to get started, right? We have to have all of the documents, all of the income information before we can even make any recommendations about where things go. And people, that takes time, not only from our client, but we have to get the other side to do it. Then we have to look through everything and see if something's missing. And then we ask for that. And until we have an absolute total picture of these folks' lives. And I think that causes delays in people's minds that we just can't get around.
So, Kristen, what would you like to add to that?
I think that you feel like so much fear and uncertainty is so crippling and so overwhelming. It is almost like a death that you're experiencing, a death of like what you thought your life was going to be, what you sort of expected, what feels safe. It's really hard, especially if kids are involved. And I think like the most important thing is to just kind of pause a little bit and know that there is going to be uncertainty through the time, but you need to just find your right support people in your life, like your loved ones, your friends, your family, but also professionals. You got to get the right support team around you.
We definitely have some great ones here, especially in the real estate world, the divorce attorney world, and also the financial advisor world. Hennessy, can you tell us a little bit more about your insights on this?
Yeah, I think with a misconception in divorces, you said it great. It can be confusing, it's scary. It's very easy to kind of be paralyzed and stuck in one moment because you realize this is a heavy lift that has to be undertook. And what I find most often is that folks are so focused on this one snapshot in their life because it's a huge inflection point, it's major, that they forget that there's a life after this moment and you have to plan accordingly for that life after. And so people get bogged down in the weeds, the details of the emotions and what they're trying to do, that if they're not planning for the rest of their life, things can be missed and there are mistakes that are hard to rectify after.
And this beautifully said too, because I think that it really should be a catalyst for something greater in your life.
Oh, absolutely, 1,000%. And I'm curious to hear a little more about your experience as well, to see that you were in this moment, and it certainly was hard. But then afterwards, you can speak like, yes, there is good and happiness afterwards. And so, like, you want to plan around that. This isn't your life moving forward. You're not going to be in this moment for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
All right, very good insight from everyone. Let's talk about this. What should someone be prepared for before they file for divorce? And what is something that people wish they would have done before they filed?
So one thing that people wish they would have done is created a team. And that's one of the things that we recommend first. Well, first we recommend making sure you know what your custody schedule for your children is going to be before you leave the house. You need to know when you're going to see your kids the next time. The second is create your team. Your team of experts is going to be your protective fence. You have your parents, you have your friends, you have your coworkers. They can give you advice, but they can't effectuate things the way an expert can. So when you have a lawyer checking things, they can take somebody to court and have them, sign a deed or have them pay you alimony or whatever it is. So it's a lawyer, a therapist, financial advisor, a new CPA, and you need to know how much your house is worth. So you need a realtor, and you want to move on with your life, and you have to have your own mortgage, and that's Jason. This panel right here is exactly, if we just had a CPA on here, this is who you need, and you cannot use your spouses. They have a problem and a challenge with representing two people when they had during the marriage. Now they've got to represent them separately. So just get your own. That's the best thing. And one of us or whoever you have as your experts can recommend people that they know to help you. But please get your own experts and create that nice fence for yourself.
Mary, it's okay if I want to tag along that creating your own team, because there can be some tension when you've been introduced to your own team that was a partner with your spouse at the time, and then you get kind of off guard when the advisor, like an advisor, financial advisor, or a CPA, sticks with that other spouse during this process. And there's multiple reasons why. More often than not, there's usually one CFO of the house that's really got their finger on the pulse with their finances, and they've developed a more rapport with their advisors that they tend to stick with them more through this process. And so you have to develop your own team. And it can be really messy when you're trying to have the advisor that was your advisor while you were married through this, because then there's a conflict of interest. And as a fiduciary, you cannot be exposed to that type of an environment where you can't give the best interest and best advice for each person.
And you find out after something happens and you say, oh my goodness, I should have had my own. So it's better to have them from the start. And the things that I do are not things that the financial advisor does. And we use financial advisors to calculate income or property prior to the marriage versus after the marriage. I don't know if you want to talk, because I'm not going to go through somebody's budget, make sure they have enough money afterwards.
No, and people are always surprised during that experience of like, wait, you're not going to help me figure out the budget? You're not going to help me with cash flow? You're not going to help me with what comes after? It's no, you've got your specialties and we have ours. And so I want to touch on like, what do you need before this type of a moment and before this lift is you want to have everything documented. You want recent statements. You want hard copies of these recent statements because this is an emotional time. People have shared logins. Money flows, for better or for worse. And if it's right or wrong, money does flow through these moments. And you want to be able to have the documentation proof of be like, no, there was actually $80K in this account.
Hennessy, that is a great point, and that kind of brings me to the next question: is can your spouse legally empty a bank account before the divorce starts?
Well, if their name is on the account, they can.
They
If
can?
it's a joint account, they can. Typically, somebody needs to move out of a house in order for separation to start. That means they need money to get into the other place. And the courts look at, and lawyers look at, is this the account where all the bills are coming from and there's no money left, so all of a sudden everything's going to not be paid? Or is this a savings account? And so, you have to speak with your lawyer. There's my disclaimer, but typically you can take some money out, but you're only entitled to half. That's the groundwork. I mean, they may be entitled to more than that, but you don't take all of it out. And if somebody does, you need to go to a lawyer right away in order to get some immediate legal proceedings and protection.
And that's why you have those safeguards of documentation. And usually if you're working with an advisor prior to that, they have net worth statements. They have balance sheet statements that you can reference prior to this moment to be like, no, there was these accounts, there were these statements with this balance, and that way you can have that standing and footing when you're having the negotiations of if there was a moment of money flowing without the other person knowing.
Can I go down the rabbit hole one more time?
Let's go down the rabbit hole. Let's go.
So one of the big buzzwords right now and for the last several years is narcissism, right? People are married to a narcissist, or they're being accused of being a narcissist. Documentation, so somebody can get on the stand and be so persuasive they could sell the Brooklyn Bridge to everyone in this room. But if you have documents, which is why I said we have to get all this stuff at the beginning, all the experts need your documents too, because the narcissist can't fool a judge when they're seeing the documents. They can't fool their own attorney when they see documents. That's why it's so important to be your own private investigator before you separate. Take photos of everything on your phone and put the documents back, or download what you can and email it to a new email address or whatever. Secure those documents as you see them coming in.
What's the saying? Men lie, women lie, the numbers don't.
Yes,
Yeah.
And
That would apply. Yeah.
I would also say too, like when we're talking about, like we're kind of leaning towards maybe a more charged and emotional separation, even if it is a good quote unquote separation where both parties are supporting and on board and collaborating through this process, you still need the documentation. It's not like you think like this is going to be amicable, so I don't have to do my homework. I don't have to create.
Don't be too trusting.
I know what they have.
That's me too.
And so
yeah.
it's not I want to make sure you just want to cover your bases
You got
here.
to keep your emotions in check, and you
Yeah.
have to have your ducks in a row.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
All right, so this one is going to really touch on my expertise, and I'll share a little story. My first time in a professional setting where I encountered divorce, I was helping a client close on a new house. He calls me a week later. He's like, Jay, I need to refinance. I'm like, what are you talking about? We just closed last week. He's like, I'm going through a divorce. My wife is like, she wants to get separated. I need to get the mortgage and everything separated apart. And that was my first experience. It's like, you have to have a plan. So let's talk about that. For the marital home, how is that separated? How is the best course of action to handle that?
So there's three ways. If the home is jointly owned, meaning that it was bought during the marriage with marital funds, right? So that can be done three ways. Folks can sell it and split the assets that come out of it, the equity, or one person can have it and buy the other person's equity out, like pay or give that person a little more of the other property in order to balance the money. And there's a few people that either have businesses of, real estate businesses, so they want to keep it in the joint names and they get along and they can run that business, or they're doing what's called nesting, which is they keep the marital home, the children live there, and then both parents buy separate places or live in separate places, and then they, say they're week on, week off custody, one goes to the nesting house for a week, then leaves, and the other one comes to the nesting house. So the children stay in their same environment and the parents transfer.
Kristen, I know you work in real estate as a realtor. I mean, what's your experience with going through divorce? Have you had any clients go through that situation that you had to help?
Absolutely. Many a times. I think one of the biggest questions you have to ask yourself is, what is my agenda here? Why do I want to keep the house? You know, is it because this is where all our family memories are? Does it make sense to continue that on? Or does it make sense to have a fresh start? Can I carry the burden of it? It's not just financial, but it's also the maintenance. You know, my ex-husband used to do all the outside. I used to do all the inside. It hasn't been as well kept up on the outside since he moved out. But, you know, I'm happy I'm in the home I'm in because my, you know, kids have friends in the neighborhood, and there's, you know, it'd be hard to probably move on somewhere else and buy the same house for the same amount of money. But on the flip side, you have to look at, what is the market doing right now? What does it make sense to buy your spouse out, and you're now going to have a new interest rate? So those are all things to think about.
Absolutely.
Let's stay on this topic a little bit longer. So let's example, clients just now file for divorce. One spouse moves out. What are their rights to the house if the divorce has not gone through yet?
So somebody's got to move in order for the separation to start. They've got to move out with the intent that the marriage is over, right? Even if they're not going to get divorced and just separate forever, somebody's got to move out. So you're not waiving your equity by moving out, because no one could ever move out. Somebody has to leave. So it's okay to do that. What the problem is signing something without a lawyer looking at it and waiving your right on paper changes everything, because there can be a sentence in there that says you've just given the equity to the other person. So you got to make sure you're doing it the right way with the right, like I said, with that right team looking out for you.
And, you know, we've kind of touched on this before, but you think things might be going so agreeable, but things can change. Emotions can get involved. You never know if somebody's going to get in somebody's head, and suddenly you're getting the short end of the stick. You know what I mean? And so you might get along great now, and then all of a sudden someone's got a boyfriend or girlfriend, or someone's family member or someone gets involved, and they're not going to be as agreeable anymore.
Mm-hmm. Or just they don't go through their divorce lawyers, and they get another lawyer to draw up a deed, a quick claim deed.
A quick claim deed, right?
Yeah. And that person says, "Oh, this is part of divorce. Well, then I'll write these sentences in waiving it." And all of a sudden, you know, it's somebody that doesn't even know the situation, doesn't know the agreement that the folks have had, and it really throws a wrench in things.
Can you explain what a quick claim deed is to people watching?
So a deed is the title or ownership to a piece of property, whether it's land or houses or whatever. And there's a few types of deed. Most people have a general warranty deed. When you look in the Register of Deeds for your county, they're by county, you'll have your name as the owner, right? As the grantee is what it's called. Grantor is the person that gives it. Grantee is the person that receives it. If you do a quick claim deed, it is an as is, I'm giving it to you. It can be for money or for other reasons, like because of divorce. But it's giving that without with no warranties. It's just like an as is, I'm giving you property.
I think everyone here would agree with this, that you give yourself some grace in this period and rely on a team. It's okay not to know everything. And in a moment that is very emotional and it can be a roller coaster, that it could almost be a relief to be like, it's not on my shoulders. I'm going to pass this to my expert, to the specialist that I have on my team, so I don't have to figure this out by myself. And so like you explaining that, I mean, like there's a lot of people who don't know what that is, and they can be caught off guard of being like, you know what, this sounds right. You know, there's a lawyer involved, but they're not my lawyer, but okay, sure. I'm assuming that they have my best interest in mind. Mm-hmm. And give yourself the grace to be like, hey, like I'm going to have my guy or my person take a look at this. And then we can touch on this at another point.
Your spouse may not even know that sentence is in there.
Yes.
And are surprised also.
Yeah.
You know, I've had people be given this thing at work, right? Like they're trying to work and someone says, oh, and so they just sign it thinking that this is what we talked about. And it really causes a lot of situations because when you sign away your rights to the title of your property, it's that you're then blocked from saying, now I want you to refi. Because you don't own the house.
Right.
You're just a signature. You're just a personal guarantor to the mortgage now. You're and fully liable for it, but you can't take them to court to refi it.
Yeah, it would be like buying the house again if you're in that situation, unfortunately, because you're not an owner. And speaking of like the mortgages side of things, when people go through a divorce and they're on a mortgage and the one party moves out, but it's a joint mortgage. What happens though if the spouse paying the mortgage stops paying to the person's credit?
It's not good.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Both people are liable, right?
that's correct. Both people are liable. So for what we always recommend is to get off the mortgage, do a refinance, or if you don't want the house at all, talk to Kristen, get the house sold, and then split the assets from there.
Because you have to clear this off of your credit because you can't buy another house.
Yeah, it's
sometimes.
like handcuffs, right?
Yeah, it's you all your credit's tied up in a house you're not living in. That's one reason that you need to get that off. I mean, I've had people trying to buy, some small thing and they say, I don't qualify because I've got
This
my
debt still
house
attached to me.
Yeah, and I've got 2 mortgages, not one, or I've got a mortgage and rent. And so it's
I've seen that. I've seen that a few times in my day, unfortunately. So I want to like go back to the legal part of things, Mary. What's the biggest legal mistake you see clients go through, and like what are some of their biggest regrets going through the divorce?
The biggest regret, and this sounds funny, but the biggest regret is that they didn't hire a lawyer, even if it's for debundle services. Now we have AI, and a lot of people are using AI and looking up things. The scary things about AI are, number one, the information is not complete. So I'll give you an example. There's 20 different factors when we're doing property distribution, like if somebody's a homemaker or somebody's health, things like that. AI, when I was looking it up, only listed 5. So some things are being missed, and also they are discoverable. So if I write in there, I've had an affair and I want, what's that ramification for me? We can subpoena the records and see it and use it against somebody because it's not an attorney-client privilege with a computer. So, but a lawyer needs to look at it. I don't know if the general public knows, but as attorneys, when we're using AI, we have to check it because we can be held responsible for a judge for giving a judge the wrong law.
That's some great advice, and you got to be careful what you're searching for in AI, people.
Yes. Or social media.
That is, social
Everyone
media too.
has their own agenda on those platforms, and so they're not on there. They want to share information. They also it's not specific to your case, and I think too many times people apply these cookie cutter approaches, and it's not what's best for them because their situation is so unique, and they should approach their situation with that kind of seriousness.
Hennessy, while you're talking, we haven't really dove into this piece thing, but what about retirement accounts and splitting of assets? How do you typically get involved in handling things like that?
Again, it's about getting everything before, because everything's combined, and then we're going through this separation, and every asset behaves differently over a long horizon, and everyone loves to focus on the home, but retirement assets, pensions, Social Security benefits all have to be in play, and each person has to be understanding what's the long-term ramifications of this scenario of splitting. Well, maybe someone's obsessed with getting the home, but then they have to realize, I'm now a one-income household. Can I afford it? Am I now strapped that I can't save for retirement because now I have too many expenses and cash flow rerouted towards the home for maintenance and whatnot. So seeing the moment snapshot and then looking at all the different scenarios of all the different assets being split up, how does that play out? I think can be helpful when making this decision around the quantitative aspect, because it's two sides to one coin. You've got the quantitative, but then you have the qualitative. Kristen, you mentioned that it's like there's some nostalgia potentially with this home. So one individual may see on paper that, you know what, it may not be the best scenario math-wise to keep the house, but emotionally it might trump the quantitative side. So, but all that we're trying to do is just inform and make the best decisions possible. Mm-hmm. So then it's easier to navigate the emotional aspects of this decision.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we're coming to a close here. What I want us to do is just kind of go around and just give the best piece of advice. If you have a customer, client that's about to go towards a divorce or thinking about a divorce, and what's your best piece of advice? Let's start with Kristen first.
Okay, so I would say, going back to what we all had as like a recurring theme here, was get your stuff in order before, if you can. Sometimes, the rug is pulled out from underneath you, but get your stuff in order and have your finger on the pulse. Like, don't just be like this person who's like an accessory to the household. Like, you should have an awareness of
ownership over it.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. So that's one piece. And then the other piece is, a couple things, sorry. Each of us do bring perspective today for a reason. This was assembled for a reason. You need to have people in your corner who are experts, who will guide you, who you feel safe with, and you feel heard by, and you feel like held by. Like you want to be able to manage your overwhelm by being educated. You want to be able to know, okay, I can make an educated decision here, and then next step from there, because it is so overwhelming. It's going to have to be piece by piece, and you want to be trusting, but you also need to have your head on straight. Do not let emotions get the best of you as best you can. You have to remember, this is a snapshot in time, and you're going to look back on yourself as a more evolved human being after going through it. You're going to be like, you know what? I didn't realize in that moment I was a little lost, or I was a smaller, shrunken version of myself. And now I've expanded. Now I've become a full woman, or I'm living in authenticity, whatever. You're going to get that clarity, but you just need to make sure that you're patient in the process, and that hopefully in the end, you will come back to, even if there's a lot of, sorry if I'm going a long time here, but
that's great.
If in the process you have a lot of contention with your partner, hopefully you will come back to genuine care for each other. It was very stressful when we were going through ours, but now we genuinely care about each other and look out for each other. And it's supportive to our children. It gives us peace, and it's the way to live, the best you can. If you don't ever get that from your partner or your ex, then you have all the more clarity that you did the right thing, because you probably would have been living a life of eggshell or walking on eggshells and a lot of pain. So I hope that helps.
That was great.
Really good.
That was really good.
Hennessy?
Chris said, one step at a time, one decision at a time. Focus on what you have in your controllables, and just do your best to navigate this with the team that you've assembled. And like I said, and everyone has said, you want to have a team that can help support you, pick you up when you feel low, because there's going to be low points, and you're going to get through it, and you're going to come out the other end better, hopefully. And my parents are divorced, and it happened when I was very young, and it was funny. My mom said that because of their good relationship after, they were very communicative. They were very supporting to us. That it was almost like She's like, if we communicated as well as we did post-divorce, I'm not sure we would have gotten divorced in the first place. So like it can be a really good experience for everyone involved. And so you're not alone in this experience as well. So know that you have a support system.
And Mary.
I want to repeat what you guys had
Yes,
said, but
yeah.
not, I'm going to make it a little bit shorter, but I fully agree with what we've talked about here. And one thing is, it is free to be nice to somebody. It doesn't cost you a dime. So being nice to your ex, who at one time you thought was good looking, or you thought was funny and you loved them, or whatever, or they swept you off their feet, or they were your best friend, treat them kindly. And because it doesn't cost you a dime. Now, if they don't treat you that same way back, just you stay with the program of co-parenting or being able to live on this earth near each other and not making it awkward for your friends, right? So it's so important to be kind, and it also gives you a lot less attorney's fees. You still
Everyone
need,
likes.
you still need to get a house, and you still need a financial advisor because you're going to get money out of that. Knowing what you have at the start of the marriage, because if you owned a home at the start of the marriage, that's your home, and lawyers need to look and see, does all that passive increase, does that stay with you? If you're a business owner, the lawyer's gonna look and see, what kind of increase was it? Was it passive, means like the market does it? Active means you're working in it and it's growing because you're working in it certain ways. We business owners, people that have premarital homes or married, when they got married, those homes were theirs. You need to talk to somebody to make sure, or a 401k that people had at the date of marriage. If that is growing passively, like if you're only changing the asset once a year or once a quarter or whatever, that's still passive appreciation, and you need a financial advisor to calculate what that's worth at the date of separation. And you're entitled to all that part of the money, even if you're putting more money in. It's called part marital, part separate money. Finally, when people don't get along, I try to tell them to say 3 things that really no one can argue with. And you can emphasize each word differently and just keep saying the same things. Say, I just want what's fair. I just want what's fair. I just want what's fair. And I just want what I'm entitled to. And I just want what I'm entitled to. I don't want any more than that. Just what I'm entitled to. And I only want what's best for the kids. So I want what's fair. I want what I'm entitled to. And I want what's best for the children.
I think that's all great advice, Mary, Kristen, Hennessy. What kind of questions should your audience be asking you?
It really all revolves around the question of taking ownership of your current situation. So what do I own? Where is everything located? What are the beneficiary statuses look like? Is there insurance involved? You want to be asking for the whole picture, not just the home, siloed and, not related to the 401ks or pensions. The next step really is a comprehensive second opinion. And that is something that we do all the time. And for folks is to get a second set of eyes, a fiduciary that can look at it objectively and say, okay, this is what you've got. And then we can kind of go from there in terms of what are next steps for you, because now's the time for some action. You want to make progress, and you got to start somewhere. And so that's where that holistic opinion is what's best.
Kristen, what about you? What should your clients or the people out there ask of you?
I would say to best guide them, I'm going to want to be able to give them answers on what the market's currently doing. Have you recently had your home looked at, with a home inspector, for instance? If you're going to divide the asset and now you're going to give it to your spouse or you're going to take it, who's going to be left holding the bag? What kind of deferred maintenance has basically accrued, and now you have to carry the brunt of that. So I think getting ahead of yourself a little bit so you know the whole picture. Same thing, like not blindly relying on the tax value. I can easily provide a competitive market analysis. It's called a CMA, and you get a really good idea of like really what could the home sell for? What would it look like? So I think that getting more clarity is always going to feel more empowering.
And Mary, same, I'm going to ask for you. What type of questions should the clients ask of you?
So first off, I love more information for the lawyer is better, always better, because we are not going to spend our time. We're going to spend our time evaluating what the value is at the date of separation, but we're not, the person that owns those homes needs to get the value, and they need to qualify for a mortgage. They need to know all of their financial assets, including what they are. Are they income-based assets? Are they, just passive appreciation and they just roll over? Are they stock options? Are they restricted stock units? Like all that kind of stuff. People have all kinds of things, and knowing what they're worth is what these experts do for us. They give it to us so that we can then take the total picture and divide it out and turn it into yours, right? That's what our job is to get you guys past the finish line, get you guys divorced or separated, and each person knows exactly what they're going to have and can then move forward with whatever plans they have.
I focus primarily on the mortgage side of things. So I can help clients look to see if a refinance makes sense, to see if your credit's good enough, and can see if you can afford the property by yourself. So that's one of the things that I can provide. And we have some special discounts. Check out my link in the bio, in the page, and we can kind of see if you need that help to see how we can help you navigate a potential refinance if you're trying to keep a property if you're going through a divorce. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you found this conversation important, impactful, and empowering. The links to all of our pages are in the show notes. Thank you so much for being here. We'll see you next time.